Hi, I'm Megan Zimmer, and this evening I'm going to be talking to you about the dangers of psychotropic drug use on children. I want to start off with a quote, something that I found very interesting, and the quote states, "The number of children 0 to 5 on psychiatric drugs has increased by 42% since 2009. And in 2012, there were 1,085,410 children ages 0 to 5 that were on these psychotropic drugs. And, I wanted to mention that this is the highest number that it's been in the last decade. So, the second thing that I want to just, let you guys know a little bit about myself. I personally have experience with the overprescription of psychotropic drugs. My brother, from a very young age, like many other boys, was diagnosed with ADD and ADHD. When he was diagnosed, they went through a series of different medication trials to figure out which one would potentially impact his behavior. I think that there, unfortunately are a lot of children who are being overprescribed these medications, and my brother did happen to be one of them. He was prescribed a medication, like I said, from a really young age, and it affected his behavior then and now, even though he's off that medication. I've worked in healthcare for the last 5 years, and I've really found that this is a passion of mine to talk about the dangers of prescribing this medication to very young children. There's a lasting impact, and it does do, a number of things to your cognitive ability that I think we should really consider. One of the big things I wanted to state was psychotropic drugs alter the mind from a state of reality, and the dangers, that our children should really be, should they be taking this medication? I don't know. I think it really is a case-by-case basis. And I'll start off by saying, I don't think that all of this medication is bad. I just think that we really need to take a look at our young children, our young generation, and say, hey, is this necessary? Is this the best option? Because many of you probably are sitting in your seats wondering, what is a psychotropic drug? Well, a psychotropic drug is a medication that affects the brain chemicals associated with mood and behavior. So I thought I would list a couple of the most common medications, which include Adderall, Ativan, Ambien, Cymbalta, Depakote, Klonopin, Lexapro, Lithium, Prozac, Restoril, Trazodone, Wellbutrin, Xanax, Zoloft, the list goes on and on. And one of the things that I just wanted to point out is, honestly, in today's society, I'm not sure, about you, but I'm assuming that every single person in this room has either heard of most of these medications or even been prescribed one. I'm in that category. I think that a lot of people are. And these medications are, used to treat a variety of different illnesses. Most of these illnesses fall under the umbrella of mental health, which can be very hard to determine. Before I move forward or go any further, I want to just go ahead and talk about some of the side effects of one of the most common medications on this list, and that's Adderall. Adderall, they call it the college street drug these days because it is commonly used to help students with focus. So it's prescribed to those ADD, ADHD students, just like my brother, and it does help them concentrate, writing those late night papers, things like that. But what they don't take into consideration is the immense side effects, which include irregular heartbeat, hallucinations, headaches, insomnia, severe mood changes, dizziness, and that's just the beginning of the list. So again, when we are taking medication, it does affect and alter our body. It also affects everyone differently. So the question I just ask myself is, there's no testing for mental health and mental illness. There's no physical testing anyway. I had a friend once say, an x-ray or a brain MRI can't tell what the mental health status of an individual is, which makes it, as a healthcare professional myself, it makes it very difficult for you to treat those patients because there's no blood, urine, or any tests, like I mentioned earlier, that can understand the complexity of the brain and things like those medications are treating mental illness. So this leads many people, including myself, to believe that even healthy patients are possibly being diagnosed with some sort of disorder that is then, being treated, even though they might only be displaying minor symptoms. Some of these symptoms include, which I experience on a daily basis, stress, irregular heartbeat due to anxiety. This could also include difficulty concentrating, which is very common, especially among young kids. And honestly, I think that all of these things are very common. And I also think they're very normal. I wanted to point out something that I found a little alarming, especially while doing some of my research, and that is the psychiatric and psychotropic drug industry is a $33 billion industry. And like I said, I do believe that there are some instances where these are necessary. However, that's just a huge number. And, it really just, it's hard to argue these facts. And I think that honestly, there could be a conflict of interest with these psychiatric prescriptions. Working in a primary care office, it's really opened my eyes over the last few years. And, a big thing is insurance companies, drug representatives, things like that, they have incentives for prescribing these medications. They have agreements. And I really think that as someday I hope to be a mother, I want to be able to protect my children from the negative side effects that my brother did experience. And my parents were uneducated. They didn't know. They were just following the advice of their physician, which they thought was the best thing to do. So these medications are being used as a method to control mental illness, and they're most commonly prescribed to children and teens. The number of teens that are diagnosed with ADHD, depression, anxiety, mental illness, it's growing every single year in the United States. More than 17 million children worldwide have been prescribed psychiatric drugs. 17 million. Out of those 10 million children in the United States, they're under the age of 5. 10 million of them under the age of 5. So today, children 5 years and younger are fastly becoming, acquainted with the idea that a medication can fix me. It can help my state of mind. And as a Christian, I think that this is something that we should also consider. How much are we relying on God? How much are we really, taking the time to give it to God? Trust Him. Be patient. Sit in whatever uncomfortable situation you may be currently experiencing. And, there's so many alarming statistics. I could go on, but, one of them is between 1995 and 1999, antidepressant use increased by 580%. Yeah, you heard that correct. 580%. In the population under 6, it increased by 151%. And, in 2004, the FDA ordered that the, quote, black box label be placed on antidepressants, warning them that they can cause severe side effects, including suicide in children and adolescents. Why are we giving them this medication? Going back to a little bit about myself, my brother, at age 14, attempted suicide. What medication was he taking? Zoloft. This medication gave him just enough of a bump in what his, quote, depression to attempt to overdose on pills. These same pills that he was prescribed. And I'll never forget that day. I'll never forget what it was like finding my brother on a bathroom floor at 14. It was life-altering. And it really has shaped my opinion on these things as a healthcare professional. Many would think, oh, don't you want the healthcare industry to thrive? I want patients. I want the kids. I want our next generation to be healthy and educated. So my final conclusion is there are many dangers associated with these medications, especially on children. Children as little as preschool age are receiving these psychotropic medications despite little and limited evidence supporting safety and efficiency. So what do? For me, I feel as though this is your call to action. I would love to see some additional research on these medications, case studies, things like that. I overall think that the biggest problem is that we live in a society where we want to numb the pain. Again, I think a huge part of this is because we don't have the same reliance on God. And as a young millennial, I really want to encourage the people around me to allow God to be bigger than your current problem or situation, because I really think that He can help you. And I really also think that some medications are necessary, but they need to be closely monitored. Patients need to be well informed, parents need to be well informed, and education is huge. Know about the risks. And overall, our country does overprescribe this medication to the younger generation. So my personal take on everything would be just proceed with caution. know all the facts, know all the options. And honestly, I think that we can make a positive change. I don't want to hear any more stories about young adolescents committing suicide when it could easily be avoided just due to a medication. Thank you so much for your time.